Hi guys, this is Kendra with Truest TV, and I'm back with another video today. And this video is going to be why Americans, so-called American Negro, why black people, or so-called black people, right, American Indians, why do we believe ourselves to be the biblical Hebrews here in America? Why do we believe that we are descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Why do we believe we are the Hebrews of old, of the Bible, descendants thereof, right? And so me and my mother were having discussion about the Bible, and I wanted to talk about why, right? And one of the reasons I want to say that we believe that we are the Hebrews of old is due to the fact that in history, slavery was practiced around the globe universally, right? Chattel slavery, indentured servitude has always been in common practice for relieving of debt or for criminal activity and punishment for criminal activity or behavior. So slavery has been historically practiced globally in every nation, right? Now, American so-called black people are the only nation of people where, due to such lies that have not been substantiated about slavery, we are the only nations of people where this alleged story of slavery has eradicated one's identity. We are the only nation who have not given up, but have been reclassified, renamed from other foreigners, different titles. We have not been given a nation. So in the Bible, it talks about the Hebrews and talk about in the book of Psalms where it talks about they have taken crafty counsel and have consulted against my hidden ones to cut Israel off from being a nation any longer. We are the only people in history who have had our identity changed from others several times over. Negro, colored, black, African American, right? Reclassified from Indian to Negro, color, and black. Free people of color, people of color. We are never called a nation. We are never called nations such as Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Haitian, right? We are not, there is no name. No, we are the only people who are not of a nation, and no one can find their proper identity. If you say we are from Africa, Africa is a continent full of different countries of different nations. So if you are saying we are African, what African nation are we from? We all have similar blood types, which is O positive. I think I'm saying that right. Us so-called black Negroes. Explain to me if you're going to Africa in a continent full of different tribes of people, right? Because we know that all those different nations within, so you got Kenyan, Somalian, Ugandan, Sudanese. If you're saying we are African, and everybody that is brown skin is from Africa that was brought to the Americas, then why not just call everybody African? Why would you ever not call somebody a nation? Why would you call them free people of color? Why would you call them Negro? Why would you call them black? you could have just called everybody African. That's where you claim to have gotten them from. Let's just say if you got them from a melting pot of different locations from alleged Africa, why not just call everybody African? That's what you're saying everybody that's dark-skinned is in America. We have never been called a nation. They have consulted against thy hidden one and cut Israel off from being a people. A people is a nation. We have never been classified as a nation of people. Black is not a nation. There's no country or a people anywhere or a continent on this globe called black. That is a color. There's not a nation called African America because there are many nations within the continent of Africa. As I said, you got the Sudanese, Ethiopian, Somalian, even within Ethiopia, there are different nations of people, different tribes. So if you are saying we are all African, then and you allegedly got us in 1619, why didn't you just classify everybody as African? That would have made perfect sense. But you didn't. You called everyone Negro, colored, black, or free people of color, which would denote to the fact that you are trying to now differentiate different or group together, for whatever reason, different nations of brown-skinned folk. Because if we that were from different regions of the world, because if we were all from Africa, you would have just called everybody. The term African American was coined in 1988 when I was born. My mother was not called an African American when she was born in 1949. How is it possible that these nations existed before my mother, but yet my mother wasn't called African American? We weren't called African American until 1988, 37 years ago. Well, my mother is 75. She wasn't an African American. Make that make sense. Nations are developed before we are born. We're born into these nations. So if she wasn't, how was my mother not an African American, but yet I would be classified as African American? You see where there's a problem? In 1949, my mother was considered Negro. Well, Negro is also not a nation. That is denoting to being black, which is either a social system, right? A caste system, or you're referring to one's dark hue of complexion. Well, my mother's mother was a light-skinned woman. Very pale, light-skinned woman. Right? And she was also called a person of color, as well as my mother on her birth certificate. Right? Which, excuse me, getting over a cold, also is not a nation, but referring to a social status or to one's hue of complexion. There's a problem. Biblically, we line up with the people whom was historically crafty counsel was consulted against. We are a shaking of a head and a byword to every nation. What byword? Name any nation, even the so-called Jews, where there is a byword used globally against them. Globally, every nation from China to Timbuktu will call us niggers. A byword. Come on with it. Somebody explain to me, why is this so? You say we aren't the people? Well, explain. I don't hear a byword for so-called Jews. Can somebody tell me? Jews know who they are. We have been reclassified as colors, as misnomers to nations that technically don't exist as one, right? African American. Well, if we're African, why were we not called African from the beginning? We weren't even called African in the 1600s when allegedly we got Africans. We weren't called African. If you got all dark-skinned people, brown-skinned, yellow-skinned people from Africa, why did you not call them African in the 16, 17, and 18, and 1900s? Free people of color is not a nation. All else free is not a nation. Freed people is not a nation. Colored is not a nation. Black is not a nation. There are no tribes called any of that in any geographical location on this earth. So how can we be any of those things? Do you understand where there's a problem? Why do we believe we are the people of the Bible? We align correctly. Because despite the story of the transatlantic slave trade that has never been substantiated, not only has it not been substantiated, but the history of who we are has been erased, along with our identity as who? The Hebrews of old. It aligns right up. We have to come into awakening, right? In the end days, the Hebrews will become awake and realize they are God and that they are children of the Most High. He will establish them in their land. You have many different so-called American black folk who are coming into a reality of their own identity. And not only the crafty counsel that is being consulted against us, that has been against us, is things such as Ancestry.com, 23andMe, right? And then they'll get influencers, put a spit and swab in there, and I can tell you what nation. We are the only people who cannot self-identify. No nation on this earth can be told that they cannot say where they come from. We, American Negro, are the only people who can't say that they're American. White people can come from Austria. Chinese people can come from China and say that they're American. They tried to crucify Raven-Symoné for saying she was just American. We are the only nation who cannot self-identify as a nation. I have taken crafty counsel and consulted against thy hidden ones. And we have contended, we have cut Israel from being a nation anymore. This is in the Bible, maybe not verbatim how I'm saying it, but basically to that. It's in the book of Psalms. So you tell me, what's going on? How is it possible for my mother, for me to be an African American, but my mother to be a Negro, or colored, or black? Her mother to be Negro, colored, black. Then my great grandmother to be a free people of color, colored. Her mother to be all freed. These aren't nations. These are circumstances and conditions and colors. This is Kendra with Trust TV. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay up, stay blessed. Put God first above all else. Peace out. Bye.